It was a chilly evening in Los Angeles, the neon lights of Hollywood Boulevard casting long shadows across the rain-slicked streets. Outside the prestigious Regent Theater, a small figure huddled against the cold, a young boy, no more than 12. His thin jacket did little to shield him from the bitter wind. His name was Tommy, and hunger had driven him to this desperate moment. The theater doors burst open, spilling warm light and laughter onto the sidewalk as celebrities emerged from the latest premiere. Among them was Sandra Bullock, elegant in a black evening gown, her security team close behind. Tommy's heart raced as he gathered his courage, approaching the star with trembling steps. "Excuse me, miss," he said softly, his voice barely audible above the crowd's chatter. "Could you spare $1 just for some food?" His eyes fixed on the ground, unable to meet her gaze, shame coloring his cheeks. What happened next would change his life forever. Behind Sandra, unnoticed by the young boy, stood Keanu Reeves, watching the scene unfold with quiet intensity. Sandra paused, studying the child before her with gentle eyes. The security team moved to intervene, but she held up a hand, stopping them. Instead of reaching for her wallet or turning away, she did something that left everyone on that crowded street speechless. Before we continue with this incredible story, let us know where you're watching from in the comments below. If you enjoy real stories about celebrities who stay humble despite their fame, make sure to subscribe to our channel, because tomorrow we have another heartwarming story that will touch your soul. Sandra crouched down, bringing herself to Tommy's eye level. Her designer dress pulled around her feet on the wet pavement. "Hey there," she said softly, her voice warm and kind. "How about we talk about more than just $1? Behind her, Keanu stepped closer, a small smile playing at his lips. For Tommy, this moment would mark the beginning of an extraordinary journey, one that would transform not just his life, but his entire family's future. Tommy's appearance told a story of recent hardship. His clothes, though clean, were clearly worn. A red t-shirt 2 sizes too big, jeans with patched knees, and sneakers held together with duct tape. But there was something in his eyes, a quiet dignity that spoke of better days not too long ago. Just 3 months earlier, Tommy had lived a normal life with his mother, Sarah, in their small but cozy apartment in East Los Angeles. Sarah worked as a dental assistant, making enough to keep them comfortable. They weren't rich, but they had each other, a roof over their heads, and food on the table. Then came the diagnosis that changed everything. Sarah's chronic headaches turned out to be something more serious. Medical bills piled up faster than she could work to pay them. Even picking up extra shifts couldn't keep pace with the mounting debt. One missed rent payment led to another, and soon they found themselves facing eviction. Their belongings were packed into their old Honda Civic, which became their temporary home. Tommy had watched his mother try to hide her tears as she drove them from parking lot to parking lot each night, searching for safe places to sleep. He pretended not to notice when she gave him the larger portion of their shared meals from the dollar menu. He stopped asking for new clothes when he outgrew his old ones. Instead, he started visiting thrift stores, learning to patch his own clothes with whatever he could find. That evening outside the theater wasn't the first time Tommy had asked strangers for help, but it was the first time he'd approached someone famous. He'd recognized Sandra Bullock immediately. His mom loved her movies, and they used to watch them together on their old TV back home. The way Sandra looked at him now with such genuine concern reminded him of how his mother used to look at him before exhaustion had dulled her eyes. Little did Tommy know, this desperate request would set in motion a chain of events that would not only change his life, but show him that sometimes when things seem darkest, help can come from the most unexpected places. And sometimes that help comes not just from one kind-hearted soul, but two. Sandra's soft voice carried a warmth that seemed to melt away the evening chill. "How long have you been out here?" she asked, still crouched at his level, despite her elegant attire. The boy shifted nervously, his eyes darting between Sandra and the imposing figure of Keanu Reeves, who had moved closer. His presence was somehow both powerful and gentle. "Just today," Tommy stammered, then corrected himself. "Well, 3 months on the streets, but first time asking here." His voice cracked slightly, and he swallowed hard, fighting back tears. Sandra exchanged a meaningful glance with Keanu, who nodded almost imperceptibly. "Where's your family?" Sandra's question was gentle, non-judgmental. Tommy's fingers twisted the hem of his oversized t-shirt as he explained about his mother, the medical bills, their car home parked 3 blocks away. With each word, his story tumbled out faster, as if a dam had broken. He told them about his mother's illness, her multiple jobs, how she was probably worried sick about him being out alone. Keanu stepped forward, his voice low and kind. "You're doing this for your mom, aren't you?" Tommy nodded, a single tear finally escaping down his cheek. The action star's face softened with understanding. "That's brave, kid. Really brave. But maybe we can find a better way to help." Sandra stood up, brushing off her dress with elegant determination. "First things first," she said, pulling out her phone. "Let me call your mom. She needs to know you're safe." Tommy's eyes widened in surprise. He'd expected $1, maybe 5 if he was lucky. Instead, he was watching Sandra Bullock dial her personal assistant, asking them to bring a car around. "Tell me where your mom is," Sandra said, her hand gentle on Tommy's shoulder. "We'll pick her up, and then we're all going to sit down and figure this out together." The security team, who had been hovering uncertainly, now moved to create a protective circle around them, shielding the scene from curious onlookers and paparazzi who had begun to notice the unusual gathering. Keanu pulled off his leather jacket and draped it over Tommy's trembling shoulders. The warmth and weight of it seemed to ground the boy, who had begun to look overwhelmed by the surreal turn of events. Sometimes the universe puts the right people in the right place at exactly the right time, Keanu said, his words carrying a weight of personal experience. "Tonight, that's us." As they waited for the car, Sandra and Keanu kept Tommy talking, learning about his favorite subjects in school, math and science, his dreams of becoming a doctor, inspired by the kind medical staff who had treated his mother, and his determination to someday help other families facing similar struggles. With each passing moment, their initial encounter was transforming into something deeper, a connection that would soon change not just one life, but many. The arrival of Sandra's sleek black SUV marked the beginning of a night that would remain forever etched in Tommy's memory. As he climbed into the back seat, sandwiched between 2 of Hollywood's biggest stars, he couldn't help but wonder if he was dreaming. But the gentle squeeze Sandra gave his hand and the reassuring smile Keanu flashed him were decidedly, wonderfully real. The closest restaurant was an upscale Italian place called Vincenzo, its warm golden lights spilling onto the sidewalk as their group approached. Tommy, Sandra, Keanu, and Sarah, who they'd picked up from the car park. Sarah's eyes widened in recognition, but before she could make a fuss, Sandra quietly requested a private booth in the back. The leather booth felt like luxury after months of fast food eaten in their car. Tommy ran his fingers over the crisp white tablecloth, hardly daring to believe this was real. His mother sat beside him, still looking shell-shocked, her work uniform wrinkled from her double shift. Sarah kept glancing between the 2 stars as if afraid they might disappear. "Order anything you want," Sandra said, opening the menu with a flourish. "And I mean anything." When Tommy and his mother hesitated, Keanu jumped in, pointing to various dishes. "The fettuccine here is amazing, and their garlic bread is out of this world." His casual enthusiasm helped break the tension, and soon they were all perusing the menus. The waiter appeared, and Sandra took charge. "We'll need the antipasto platter, bruschetta, and definitely those arancini balls." She winked at Tommy. "Trust me on the arancini," Keanu added, his suggestions coming next. Soon their table was laden with more food than Tommy had seen in months. As they ate, the conversation flowed naturally. Sandra and Keanu shared funny stories from movie sets, making Tommy and his mother laugh between bites of perfectly cooked pasta. Sarah opened up about their situation, the medical bills, the eviction, her struggle to find stable work. But what happened next transformed their evening into something even more extraordinary. Sandra's personal assistant arrived at the restaurant, arms laden with bags from nearby stores. "Just some essentials," Sandra explained, but the essentials turned out to be a complete wardrobe for both Tommy and his mother. Everything from warm jackets to new shoes. Keanu, meanwhile, had been making calls of his own. I've contacted a friend who manages the prestigious Westwood Hotel. They have a suite available, he announced, showing Sarah the confirmation on his phone. It's yours for as long as you need it. When Sarah began to protest, he gently cut her off. Think of it as an investment in Tommy's future. The hotel suite was larger than their old apartment. 2 bedrooms, a living area, and a kitchenette, all decorated in soft creams and blues. Tommy walked from room to room in awe, touching the plush towels, the soft bedding, hardly believing this was real. His mother stood in the doorway, overwhelmed by the sudden turn in their fortunes. Sandra's assistant had arranged for more than just clothes. The kitchen was stocked with groceries, the bathroom filled with toiletries, and on the living room table sat a new laptop for Tommy's schoolwork. Sandra explained. And for you to job search. Turning to Sarah. My friend at Memorial Hospital is expecting your call tomorrow. They have an administrative position open, better pay, full benefits. Keanu had one more surprise. He handed Sarah an envelope. Inside was a check that would cover all their outstanding medical bills, along with a card for his personal lawyer. He'll make sure everything gets sorted properly, Keanu said quietly. No more collection calls. The night ended with tears and hugs, with promises of follow-up meetings and continued support. As Sandra and Keanu prepared to leave, Tommy rushed forward, hugging them both tightly. Thank you, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Sarah could only nod, too moved to speak. Just before stepping out, Sandra turned back. Get some rest, she said softly. Tomorrow we start fresh. The door closed behind them, leaving Tommy and his mother standing in their new temporary home, still trying to process how asking for a single dollar had led to this miraculous transformation. Over the next few weeks, Sandra's team worked tirelessly to help Tommy and Sarah rebuild their lives. The hotel suite served as their base, while Sandra's connections opened doors that had previously seemed firmly shut. Sarah started her new position at Memorial Hospital, working in patient administration with a salary nearly double what she'd earned before. But the support didn't stop there. Keanu's lawyer didn't just handle the medical bills. He negotiated them down significantly and set up a manageable payment plan for the remaining balance. He also helped Sarah repair her credit score, crucial for their next step, finding permanent housing. Tommy's return to education was seamless, thanks to Sandra's intervention. She'd contacted the principal of a well-regarded school near the hospital, where Sarah now worked. The school not only accepted Tommy mid-semester, but also provided him with all necessary supplies and textbooks. His previous academic record showed promise, and the school's guidance counselor worked with him to develop a plan to catch up on the months he'd missed. The most significant moment came when Sandra's real estate agent found them a modest but beautiful 2-bedroom apartment within walking distance of both the hospital and Tommy's new school. The rent was reasonable, and Sandra had arranged to cover the security deposit and first 3 months, giving Sarah time to build up her savings. Moving day was emotional. As they carried boxes into their new home, real furniture and belongings, not just the few possessions they'd kept in their car, Sarah couldn't stop crying. But these were happy tears. Tommy had his own room again, with a proper desk for studying and walls he could decorate. The kitchen was fully equipped, and the living room had comfortable furniture donated by several of Sandra's industry friends. Both stars had kept their involvement quiet, avoiding publicity. This wasn't about recognition. It was about genuine care for a family in need. Their actions spoke louder than any press release could have, showing that true kindness often works best in silence. Sarah's health improved dramatically with proper medical care and reduced stress. She no longer had to choose between medication and food, between rest and working extra shifts. The dark circles under her eyes faded, replaced by a healthy glow that Tommy hadn't seen in months. 6 months after that fateful evening outside the theater, Tommy sat at his desk, working on his science project. The transformation in his life felt almost unreal. His grades had improved dramatically, and he'd even been selected for the school's advanced science program. The stability of a permanent home and regular meals had worked wonders for his concentration and learning. Sarah had excelled in her new role at the hospital, recently receiving a promotion to department supervisor. Her health had stabilized, and with regular medical care, her condition was well managed. The apartment felt like a real home now, filled with photos, homework assignments pinned to the fridge, and the comfortable clutter of everyday life. One evening, Sarah arrived home to find Tommy deep in thought at the kitchen table. "What's on your mind?" she asked. Tommy looked up, his expression serious. "Remember when we were in the car, and you used to give me your food sometimes?" Sarah's eyes welled up with tears, but Tommy continued. "There's this kid at school. I think his family might be struggling too." The next day, Sarah and Tommy prepared extra lunches. They knew what hunger looked like, how it hid behind brave smiles and worn clothes. Without drawing attention, they made sure Tommy's classmate never went hungry at school. It was their way of paying forward the kindness they'd received. Occasionally, they received thoughtful messages from both Sandra and Keanu, checking on their progress. Both stars had kept their word about staying connected, but always discreetly, always focused on Tommy and Sarah's well-being rather than publicity. What touched Sarah most wasn't just the material help they'd received, but how it had been given, with dignity, respect, and genuine care. The experience had taught Tommy an invaluable lesson about compassion and the ripple effect of kindness. Now, as they helped others in their own way, they understood that sometimes the greatest gift isn't just the help itself, but the hope it brings and the cycle of kindness it inspires. The impact of Sandra and Keanu's kindness extended beyond Tommy and Sarah. Their story, though kept quiet by the stars themselves, began spreading through the hospital where Sarah worked. She never boasted about her connection to the celebrities, but her colleagues noticed the dramatic change in her life and her newfound dedication to helping others. Sarah started a support group at the hospital for families facing medical debt. Every week, she shared resources, offered guidance on navigating insurance systems, and provided the emotional support she wished she'd had during her darkest times. Her personal experience, combined with her new professional knowledge, made her an invaluable resource for struggling families. Tommy's school performance continued to improve dramatically. His science teacher noticed his particular interest in medicine, inspired by his mother's health journey. With encouragement, Tommy joined the school's science club and began working on a project about affordable healthcare solutions. His first-hand experience with medical hardship gave him unique insights that impressed his teachers. The apartment complex, where they now lived, became another sphere of quiet influence. Sarah started a community food pantry in the building's shared space, stocking it with necessities for neighbors who might be struggling. She remembered the shame of asking for help and designed the pantry to be accessible without embarrassment. People could take what they needed anonymously. Their new life wasn't just about stability. It was about creating a ripple effect of positive change. They understood that true recovery from hardship wasn't just about getting back on your feet. It was about helping others stand up too. Their experience had taught them that sometimes the most powerful way to heal from past struggles was to become the help you once needed. Even their old Honda Civic, which had once been their home, found a new purpose. Sarah donated it to a local organization that helped homeless families transition into housing. The car that had sheltered them through their darkest times would now help other families on their journey to stability. One quiet Sunday afternoon, Tommy sat with his mother on their small balcony, watching the sunset over Los Angeles. "Mom," he said suddenly, "remember when you thought no one cared?" Sarah nodded, remembering those dark nights in their car. "Look at us now," Tommy continued, gesturing to their home, their stability, their new life. The previous week, something remarkable had happened. Tommy's science project on affordable healthcare solutions had won first place in the school competition. The prize included a scholarship opportunity for future medical studies. When he called Sandra to share the news, she was overjoyed but not surprised. "I knew you had it in you," she said warmly. Keanu had sent a congratulatory note too, along with a collection of medical textbooks that now filled Tommy's bookshelf. His message was simple but meaningful. "Keep chasing those dreams, kid. The world needs more healers." The books became Tommy's prized possession, representing not just knowledge, but the possibility of a future he once thought impossible. Sarah's support group at the hospital had grown significantly. What had started as a small gathering now filled the conference room each week. She'd become known as someone who could navigate both the emotional and practical aspects of medical crises. The hospital administration noticed her impact and asked her to develop a formal program for patient families facing similar challenges. Their apartment had become a hub of quiet hope. The community food pantry inspired other buildings to start similar initiatives. Sarah's neighbors no longer saw her as the woman who needed help, but as the one who helped others. She'd found her calling in transforming her painful experience into a source of strength for others. Most importantly, they'd learned that rock bottom wasn't the end. Sometimes, it was just the foundation for building something better. Their story wasn't just about celebrity kindness anymore. It was about how that kindness had multiplied, touching lives far beyond their own. Today, Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves still quietly checking on Tommy and Sarah. Their generosity wasn't a one-time act, but the beginning of a lasting connection. The stars never publicized their involvement, preferring to let their actions speak louder than words. Tommy is now pursuing his dream of becoming a doctor. His grades are consistently at the top of his class. The scared young boy who once begged for $1 has transformed into a confident teenager with a clear vision for his future. His science project on affordable healthcare solutions has evolved into a full-scale research proposal, catching the attention of several medical institutions. Sarah has become a pillar in her community. Her patient support program at the hospital has been recognized as a model program, with other hospitals requesting her guidance to implement similar initiatives. The medical bills that once threatened to destroy their lives are now fully paid off, and she's helping other families navigate similar challenges. Their story has inspired a quiet revolution of kindness in their community. The food pantry Sarah started has expanded to multiple locations, and her support group has helped dozens of families avoid the hardships she once faced. Tommy volunteers at a local youth center, mentoring kids who remind him of himself not so long ago. One evening, while sorting through some old belongings, Tommy found the worn sneakers he'd been wearing that fateful night. He placed them in a small display box in his room, a reminder of where they'd been and how far they'd come. Next to it sits a framed note from Sandra and Keanu that reads simply, "Sometimes angels wear designer dresses and leather jackets. Never stop believing in miracles." Their journey from homelessness to hope continues to touch lives, proving that sometimes the smallest request, even just asking for $1, can open the door to extraordinary change. As Tommy often says now, it's not about how far you fall, but who's there to help you rise.